Hello and welcome to Wisdom Bites. Hope you're well. Thank you once again for joining us. Very much appreciated. And in today's video, I'm going to be looking at quite a number of things. Firstly, I'm going to have a look at a Bitcoin fractal that no one has picked up on. And it's something that happens just before the beginning of the parabolic phase of the cycle. I'm also going to be showing a different way of applying the Fibonacci retracement, which seems to predict the current cycle top. I'll also have a look at Ethereum, which we haven't had a look at, and show some amazing developments on both the charts against USD as well as the BTC. If I get some time, I'll also have a look at a couple of the altcoins. And finally, we have a wisdom bite today which covers the topic of patience. And the reason why I've chosen this topic is that I've been reading quite a number of comments in other people's videos, and there seems to be a common theme that a lot of people seem to be losing patience with this current bull market. And this is precisely the reason why we must not give up on Bitcoin and have patience. So today I'm going to show you a little video which actually gives us a lot of life lessons on many levels, including patience. So please don't skip on that. It will make you look at life in a completely different way. And if that sounds interesting, then without further ado, it's Sunday. It's time to put everything away, sit yourself down with a cup of tea, eyes on the screen, and let's get cracking. Before I start, the usual disclaimer that everything in my videos is for educational purposes only, and nothing in the videos should be taken as financial advice. Before you make any investment decisions, please do your wider research so that you can make more informed decisions with the hard-earned money that you have. Okay, so with that out of the way, I'm going to start off with this particular chart. It's showing the 3 cycles that we've had so far. The first one culminated in the blow-off top here in November 2013. The second one had a blow-off top in December 2017, and we're currently in this third cycle here. What I want to bring to your attention is what happened just before this parabolic rise here and what happened just before this parabolic rise here, because this is exactly what's happening over here. So if we zoom in on this part on the daily chart, so before we had this blow-off top in November 2013, prior to this, when the parabolic phase started, we had this correction here of around 25%. At this point, people had given up and lost patience with Bitcoin. People thought that we had topped out here. And before this, there was another correction here where people had thought that we'd topped out as well. And this was a correction of around about 22%. So during this parabolic phase, we had 2 corrections of over 20%, where a lot of people had given up on Bitcoin and lost patience. And what they missed out was this massive increase in the share price. Now, the interesting thing is, 34 days before we had the blow-off top here. So while everybody was thinking that we'd come to the top here or even there, 34 days later, the market had increased from this bottom here to the top of about 600% in 34 days. And if we move to the next cycle in December 2017, does this look very familiar to you from the first cycle? So we had a correction here and a correction there. This correction was 20%, while this correction here was 30%. So before we got the blow-off top here, we had this correction and this correction, although there's another one up here as well. But I'm talking about the timelines here. So if we take this parabolic rise from this point here, that's 34 days to the blow-off top after this 30% fall here. And I remember this because I'd been watching Bitcoin since 2016, and I remember people had given up and thought that this was the top here, and this flushing out of the weak hands meant that the smart investors got in at this point to ride all this way up to the top, and the rise we got from that point was 259%. So when people lost their patience around here, they would have missed out on a 259% rise to the top. And I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos lately, and one thing I'm getting is an increasing voice amongst a lot of YouTube creators that we seem to have topped off. Because if we have a look at the current cycle, as you know, we've been looking at Bitcoin and thinking that it's going to be topping off either in November or December. And obviously now that we're at the end of November, it doesn't look likely that we're going to have a big blow off top in November here. However, if you look at this particular fall after this rise here, we're currently 22% down. And once again, people are giving up on Bitcoin, thinking that we've now topped out either here or here. And increasingly, people are losing patience with Bitcoin. And the question is, could this be the prelude to the blow-off top that we're expecting? It seems that with the 4-year cycles that we've been following, the end of the first cycle was in November 2013, and the end of the second cycle was in December 2017. So we're now coming to the 4-year cycle coming to an end in the next 6 weeks at the end of December 2021. So it looks like we're mightily close to the end of the cycle. And I've shown you this log growth curve chart where we've said in the last few weeks that the first cycle here at the end of 2013 is what seems to be playing out over here. And for that reason, and we had our expectation that this November month candle here was going to be hitting more at the top of this log growth curve. As I've shown you with the bubbles chart, that we're either at the top of the log growth curve or at the bottom every single year since 2010. So while it looks like that this November isn't going to be at the top, it could possibly be that the next month, December, could be the month that actually takes it to the top. And we certainly can't rule it out. It could even make sense for the end of the bull market to be in January. Because if we look at the cycles, this cycle ended in November 2013, and the next one here ended in December 2017. So there was 1 month later than this particular cycle. So could it be that we're another 1 month, maybe even 2 months after this cycle here ended in terms of the 4-year cycles that we have? Only time will tell, of course, but we must be aware we certainly haven't reached the blow off top yet, and the market hasn't come to an end. And as far as I can see with these cycles, we haven't topped off here or here. It just wouldn't make sense for the market to have topped out here. So it's only a matter of time, as far as I can see, that we're about to have a blow off top, and we mustn't lose patience while we're having this correction. And as I've just shown you, it's the type of correction that we had in the first 2 cycles before going on a parabolic rise to the blow off top. So let's wait and see what happens. But certainly patience is the key word here. To me, the current price tells me that we seem to have bottomed out at the 53 level. In the last few weeks, I've been mentioning these particular levels of 59,000 and 53,000. These are the 2 key levels I've mentioned over and over again. When the price was up here, I said many times that this is definitely on the table and this is on the table. And while I wasn't expecting the price to come so sharply back down here or even here, unfortunately, these were still good probabilities that we could come back down. So now that we've reached these levels, I would be very shocked if we fell down here. And because these are the levels everybody's been watching, and a lot of people would be going long at these levels here, around about the $53,000 mark, the market has a habit of wicking down and catching all the stop losses and liquidating them before we move back up. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have 1 more wick down to liquidate the long positions. In case we do go down from here, the level I would be expecting support to hold would be around about the $48,000 mark here, which is based on these levels here that we've seen many, many times. Over here, over here, over here, and over here. Whilst this is possible, I would be really quite shocked if this happens. But we need to be aware of it now that we've come down to these levels here. To me, it looks like we're creating a base to actually go back up towards the $60,000 mark here. This downturn that we've had with the lower highs and the lower lows, this downtrend will be negated once we pass this candle here at $61,000. So if you're worried about the price going much lower than where we are currently here, you may want to wait until we go back above the $61,000 mark, confirm a candle close, a daily candle close above the $61,000 mark here, and that will negate this downtrend. And we'll be back on the uptrend again here. So let's wait and see what happens here. But certainly these are still the levels that we're looking at and what the possibilities are in the next few days. And if we are around about 30 to 35 days away from the parabolic blow off top, from today where we are, that would take it to around the 1st of January. So that would take us to the end of December basically. So let's wait and see what happens. But certainly some interesting developments and some food for thought. Okay, so I want to show you something very interesting regarding the Fibonacci retracement. This is the first cycle here. And as I've shown you, this was the cycle top in November 2013. So if we take the Fibonacci retracement here and take it from the bottom at this point to the penultimate top before the blow off top that we had. So the penultimate top was here. If we take it across there, you can see the exact top was at the 4.236 level here at 1109. It was actually 1177. So basically very close to the very top of the blow off top level here. The setting I've got on this Fibonacci retracement is I put the reverse on here. If we applied that to the second cycle here, once again, the bottom of this cycle here, penultimate top which was over here, once again we get a blow off top right on the 4.236 level at $20,000. So if we were to apply that to the current cycle, we take it from the bottom here again to the penultimate cycle top which was here at 64,000. You could apply it to the 69,000 because we've had another top here. That takes us to a 4.236 level of $283,000. Only time will tell what will really happen, but I thought that was quite interesting that when you reverse the Fibonacci retracement, it seems to fit in quite nicely with the first two cycles, and maybe that's an indication of what may happen in the current third cycle. And as we know from looking at the log growth curves, they seem to be predicting a different price level at the blow off top for Bitcoin, because the blow off top is going to be at the top of these cycle tops here. And that would suggest a price anywhere around here at this level or around about 140, maybe even $150,000. So only time will tell which will be right. But certainly it's information that we should be aware of so that we can make the best decision going forward. And obviously that's going to be based on our exit indicators, which is the real driving force of confirming which is the real top. And we'll have a look at one of the exit indicators a little bit later in the video. So what we have with Ethereum against Bitcoin on this particular chart is that we had this inverse head and shoulders pattern here. And we've broken this neckline and we moved forward here. So it looks like Ethereum is leading Bitcoin to higher levels here. And certainly, as we've seen so far, Ethereum has outperformed Bitcoin since last October. And if we take the measure from here in October last year, Ethereum has outperformed by over 180%. So once we broke this neckline here of the inverse head and shoulders, we obviously have gone on a run here and currently are in this particular symmetrical triangle. And once we break out of this triangle here, which currently is at 0.07, we're going to be challenging this level here at around about the 0.81 level here. And once we break that level anywhere around here, we can expect a very big move to the upside, and that may well be the blow off top for Ethereum against Bitcoin. And it may take Ethereum a few weeks after the Bitcoin blow off top, as it did back in December 2017 when Bitcoin had its blow off top, but Ethereum waited another few weeks in January before it had its blow off top. Very much interesting developments going on here. And if we wanted to have a look at where it could actually top off, we would have to take the measured move here from there to the neckline. That would be about 152%. So if we took that 152% from the break of the neckline here, that would take Ethereum against Bitcoin to 0.10. So once again, we'd be expecting an outperformance of Ethereum against Bitcoin. And if we have a look at the Ethereum versus the USD chart on the daily time frame, we can see these defined levels from here. So we topped out back in May here. We've had our correction, got rejected over here, made this cup and handle pattern over here, and came back to this neckline over here. Once we've broken that, we've now just come back to find support on an old resistance line here. And if we have a look at the volume, and if we can get good volume over here, then that would confirm that we've bounced off to go to the next levels up here. So very interesting developments with Ethereum. The current price would seem as though it's presenting a very good opportunity to get in now before the blow off top. Okay, just a couple of requests if I can get them in. First one is VET. Quite a few people asked me to cover this. This is the daily chart, and as we can see, we made a high over here back in April, and since then we've made a series of lower highs here with this downtrend. But recently we broke this neckline over here and made a higher high here, and we've gone from this bottom to a higher low and a higher low there. So we're basically establishing a rising trend over this side now. We really need to hold this level here. So while we had a break up here of this neckline, we failed to hold that. So it looks like there's a little bit of weakness that's crept in here. And the worrying thing is that it's aiming for this level here. So it's got to hold this as support, and if it does, then we can expect it to go much higher. However, the concern I have with VET is if we look at VET against Bitcoin. So just like a lot of altcoins, since December, a lot of altcoins, just like VET, have had a very big parabolic rise, culminating in these tops here around April against Bitcoin. But what seems to have followed down here, to me, it looks like, just like a lot of altcoins, people have moved on from VET onto the next shiny objects. And the current shiny objects, as we all know, are the metaverse coins, such as Sandbox and Mana, and many others, of course. So the problem I see with VET is that having made a high over here, we've been making a series of lower highs since then, and we haven't broken this downtrend. At the same time, we've made lower lows over here. And as a result, just like many other altcoins, this one hasn't recovered yet. And I say the operative word yet, because it can obviously do that, as we know, with any altcoins and with Bitcoin as well. So for me, it needs to get back to this neckline here before I'd be thinking about getting on board with this. A break up here would confirm that this downtrend has gone into reverse and that this has now bottomed out over here. So against Bitcoin, VET is looking quite weak, as we can see from here. And we really need to establish some sort of a support to bounce up from. The worry I have is that when we came to this bottom over here, we made a lower low at this point, and the price for VET is now going back towards these levels. And if it breaks these levels here, then we could see a further fall against Bitcoin. So far it's looking quite weak in comparison to Bitcoin, but on the USD chart, like a lot of the other altcoins, we should still see quite a good profit here. Okay, so I want to cover RIOT blockchain, which is one of the Bitcoin miners that I've been covering over the last many months now. And the reason why I want to give an emphasis on here is that compared to Marathon, if you look at their prices, RIOT blockchain is currently at $34 with a market capitalization of $3.35 billion. And if we compare that with Marathon, their price is at around about the $49, $50 mark, and with a market cap of around about $5 billion. And these two, over the last 12 months or so, have actually been going hand in hand, and they've swapped positions a couple of times. And it seems to me that their market cap should be roughly the same, because if we have a look at the amount of Bitcoin they're mining, it's very similar to each other, and all other things remaining around about the same, let's say, we should see a market cap roughly the same as both of them. And the reason why I say that RIOT is undervalued is, all things being equal, if we have a look at the number of Bitcoins mined by Riot and Marathon since January this year, Riot has mined just over 2,900 Bitcoins, while Marathon have mined just over 2,500. So just on that basis, Riot should be actually ahead of Marathon. Now, that doesn't take into account the number of machines that they've been buying over the last few months, because Marathon have bought a lot of machines, so we can expect the production for Marathon to be going up in the next few months as well. However, all the miners are making a lot of moves in this space, but currently, as we stand, there doesn't seem to be any reason why Riot should be around $15 less than Marathon. And I brought this to your attention a couple of weeks ago when the difference between the price was around $30. So certainly I've switched 50% of my Marathon holdings into Riot because I'm expecting that move. Now, that's not financial advice. I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. But having researched all the Bitcoin miners, my view is that Riot should be coming up more closer to the Marathon price in the next few weeks, but only time will tell. Like I said, it's not financial advice. You have to do your wider research and come to your own conclusions. But if we have a look at the chart, we've got this neckline that we broke here, and it looked like we were on our way. However, the Bitcoin current correction has brought all the prices down further for all the Bitcoin miners, including Riot here. So for me anyway, this presents an amazing opportunity, because it seems to me only a matter of time before we get back to this neckline and go to the higher side. So only time will tell, but certainly the charts are looking amazingly strong for the Bitcoin miners, and in particular Riot, in comparison to Marathon. Finally, a look at the exit indicator pi cycle, which we're going to be looking at virtually in every single video, because this is one we've got to keep our eye on, as well as the other exit indicators that I've been showing you over the last many months, like the log growth curve, the RSI, the beam indicator, the 1458 moving average, etc., etc. So we want to make sure that we don't miss out on the blow off top. And currently, as we know with the pi cycle, it's predicted every single top in the last 3 cycles, including this one here back in April. So currently, the 111 daily moving average is sitting here in comparison to the 350 daily moving average. It's interesting that the price action has come and found support on the 111 daily moving average here. As I've shown you many times before, these are very important lines, and we found support multiple times on this line here. Look, here, support and resistance here, and back here as well, and here, etc. It would be quite easy to believe that we have now bottomed out at these levels here at around about the $53,000 mark, but only time will tell. Certainly we need to keep an eye on these 2 lines here, the green and the red line. As soon as they cross, just like over here and in the past, in the previous cycles, that's when we'll know that Bitcoin has come to an end and we need to get out of the market. So I hope you enjoyed that technical analysis, and if you did, then please do remember to like and subscribe and to turn on the notification bell. And on that note, we're going to move on to the wisdom bite for today, which is based on an amazing quality called patience. I'll give you my thoughts at the end of the video.
Another inspirational short story read by Michelle Grigsby. This is a sweet lesson on patience. A New York City taxi driver told the following story. I arrived at the address and honked the horn. After waiting a few minutes, I honked again. Since this was going to be my last ride of my shift, I thought about just driving away, but instead I put the car in park and walked up to the door and knocked. Just a minute, answered a frail, elderly voice. I could hear something being dragged across the floor. After a long pause, the door opened. A small woman in her 90s stood before me. She was wearing a print dress and a pillbox hat with a veil pinned on it, like somebody out of a 1940s movie. By her side was a small nylon suitcase. The apartment looked as if no one had lived in it for years. All the furniture was covered with sheets. There were no clocks on the walls, no knickknacks or utensils on the counters. In the corner was a cardboard box filled with photos and glassware. Would you carry my bag up to the car? She said. I took the suitcase to the cab, then returned to assist the woman. She took my arm and we walked slowly toward the curb. She kept thanking me for my kindness. It's nothing, I told her. I just tried to treat my passengers the way I would want my mother to be treated. Oh, you're such a good boy, she said. When we got into the cab, she gave me an address and then asked, could you drive through downtown? It's not the shortest way, I answered quickly. Oh, I don't mind, she says. I'm in no hurry. I'm on my way to a hospice. I looked in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were glistening. I don't have any family left, she continued in a soft voice. The doctor says I don't have very long. I quietly reached over and shut off the meter. What route would you like me to take? I asked. For the next 2 hours, we drove through the city. We drove through the neighborhood where she and her husband had lived when they were newlyweds. She had me pull up in front of a furniture warehouse that had once been a ballroom where she had gone dancing as a girl. Sometimes she'd ask me to slow in front of a particular building or corner and would sit staring into the darkness, saying nothing. As the first hint of sun was creasing the horizon, she suddenly said, I'm tired, let's go now. We drove in silence to the address she had given me. It was a low building, like a small convalescent home, with a driveway that passed under a portico. 2 orderlies came out to the cab as soon as we pulled up. They were solicitous and intent, watching her every move. They must have been expecting her. I opened the trunk and took the small suitcase to the door. The woman was already seated in a wheelchair. How much do I owe you? She asked, reaching into her purse. Nothing, I said. You have to make a living, she answered. There are other passengers, I responded. Almost without thinking, I bent and gave her a hug. She held on to me tightly. You gave an old woman a little moment of joy, she said. Thank you. I squeezed her hand and then walked into the dim morning light. Behind me, a door shut. It was the sound of the closing of a life. I didn't pick up any more passengers that shift. I drove aimlessly, lost in thought. For the rest of that day, I could hardly talk. What if that woman had gotten an angry driver, or one who was impatient to end his shift? What if I had refused to take the run, or had honked once and then driven away? On a quick review, I don't think that I had done anything more important in my life. We're conditioned to think that our lives revolved around great moments. But great moments often catch us unaware, beautifully wrapped in what others may consider a small one.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that video, and the message that I want to take away from that is that it may well be that with a little bit more patience, we could be about to embark on our great moment in our life. You see, in this story, there are so many life lessons we can learn apart from patience, such as how to treat elderly people in our society, how to be kind and considerate, and the realization that one day we will not be here. So we need to be making the most of the time that we already have here now. And certainly for me, on a spiritual level, it made me reflect the big question of why we're here. Where did we come from? What is our purpose? And where do we go from here when we leave this wonderful world? And those are the questions that we all have to grapple with sometime in our life. So okay, on that note, we'll leave it there. Thank you once again for watching. Very much appreciated. And if you found any value in this video, then please do remember to like and subscribe and to turn on the notification bell. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.